Okay, so recording has started. So, how are you, my friend?
Uh, Thank God.
Yeah,
Thank God.
yeah,
Yeah.
I could certainly imagine. So, what we're gonna do, we're just gonna go, right into it. I just want to tell, give a little um, comment on my show. So, AI with Perry Douglas is a show I started. You're actually my official second episode. I had actually a Christian pastor on last time, so I'm equal opportunity here, right? So, but I want my viewers to understand that the show, Applied Intelligence, is about talking to very interesting people who are really applying their intelligence to try to deal and solve some of the most complex challenges that humanity has. So, I was introduced to you. I believe I took a course with Chabad Lifeline a little while back in my hometown of Montreal, and I found the organization's philosophy, and I found the organized of way of dealing with addiction, and addiction in my book includes mental health. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just, first of all, to start off, I'm just going to ask you to talk a little bit about the organization, what you do, and sort of your philosophy in attacking the human problem of addiction, if you will.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me.
Yep.
My name is Rabbi Benyamin Bresinger, and I am the director of Chabad Lifeline, outpatient um, nonprofit, non-sectarian agency that deals with anyone affected by addiction. And
Mhm.
we are accessible, we are free, and we get no government funding. So I let me tell you. I think if I tell you a little bit about who I am, then you
Sure.
can get a
Sure.
picture of what we are here.
Exactly. Before we say that, for some reason you're frozen. I can hear you, and I'm not sure what's going on here, but we'll deal with that.
Well, am I frozen now?
Yeah, for some reason you're frozen. I'm not sure. Maybe you can go out and come back in.
Okay.
Yeah, and see what. There we go.
Better.
Yeah, there we go. It's all good now. Sorry about that. Don't know what happened.
Okay.
So you're
Okay.
saying tell us a little bit about yourself. That'll help.
Okay. So I grew up in Montreal, and at the age of 12, my older brother, who was then 17, he since passed away. He was out of control, and no one understood why, other than just saying he's wild. It went beyond wild. It involved police and violence and lots of different chaos that I saw especially my parents going through. And what would turn out that it turned out that he was diagnosed actually while in prison, that he was bipolar,
Mm,
and he was sent back to Montreal to the Jewish General Hospital, just on our ground. We're on their grounds.
mhm,
Um, that was 1977,
mhm,
and as a result of that, that shaped my life.
mhm,
And now this 12-year-old growing up in these circumstances in a regular, meaning non-religious. This came only in my 20s.
mhm,
So non-religious environment and regular high school um, and college, it always stayed with me.
mhm,
Um, um, and it's part of my life's work, not just the work I do here, but my own life's
mhm,
work. So um, when this opportunity came about, as far as taking Chabad Lifeline um, and managing it and directing it, we moved back from New Jersey, where I was a
Okay.
congregational rabbi,
Hmm.
and my wife and I took over the leadership of this organization. My wife has a uh, MSW,
Hmm.
Masters of Social Work,
Yeah.
and so she took on the clinical role, and I took on the financial. Everything other than clinical is
Hmm. Hmm.
my envelope. So that's so. Who are we? So we occupy a beautiful 100-year-old heritage house
Yes.
that
Beautiful.
yeah, that used to be the original president of the Jewish General Hospital.
Okay.
And when he moved on, and it lay dormant for maybe 35
Oh,
years.
really? Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a
Wow.
cute story. Just
Mhm.
is our facility was on Queen Mary.
Yep.
Basically, it was in a upstairs apartment, rundown apartment building. We had two apartments, and always trying to make it look nicer. And then one day they came in and they told me that they were demolishing the building, and you have like a few months to get out.
Wow.
I said, "Wow!" I started checking places and square footage and how much they would cost, and we
Yeah.
had such a small budget.
Yeah.
And and then it was the same week that I met up with the CFO of the Jewish General Hospital.
Okay.
Really, there's an expression in Alcoholics Anonymous that
Mhm.
a coincidence is God remaining anonymous.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes, it is.
so a coincidence was I met up with this fellow. I told him I really I didn't even know if I told him uh, my plight with needing a new place. Probably, but it certainly wasn't the point of our conversation whatsoever.
Hmm.
And the next day he called me and said, I might have a place for you.
Hmm.
And he showed me this place, which was a
Beautiful.
disaster because it hadn't been used
Yep.
in 30 years plus. And so I like to say to people that, it's the one door closes, another one opens.
Door opens. Yes.
But what I like to
Yes.
add to that is sometimes it's the hallway in between
Hmm.
that's the
Hmm.
tough part. So here, there really wasn't a hallway in between. And for that,
I
I'm
like that
forever
one.
grateful. Yeah.
No, I like that
Uh,
one. Hallway. I want to take it. I'm going to use it one day. Hallway in between. Now, the funny thing is, such a small world. Like Queen Mary, Côte St. Catherine. That's my hood. My brother was actually born into Jewish. I lived close to Queen Mary, so I might have walked past that building when it was demolished. Because I grew, I'm 55 now, and I grew up there, the Cary Queen Mary area, until I, went to university and stuff like that. So, it's amazing how close we are, right?
yeah.
It's just amazing from a proximity. Now, tell me, um, you know, tell of yours, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get people to understand and that, that this service and what you offer is for everybody. But tell us what Shabbat is. Like, tell us give us the meaning. Give me the meaning of that. And I'm just gonna say, I love talking with you because you have such great wisdom. And I know we can't do it all today, but just give what I like about you is I like the energy and the philosophy of which you drive from, which I think is so important foundationally. So just tell us about it a little bit, what that means.
Okay. I appreciate those kind words. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, so first we got to get the pronunciation proper, Perry.
Yes.
If we're gonna do it, let's
Go
do
ahead,
it.
tell me.
Give me a Chabad.
Chabad.
Okay.
Chabad.
Chabad. Chabad. Okay,
A few of
good.
my Jewish friends are gonna laugh at me when they see this.
Yeah. Well, the
Chabad.
truth is,
Okay, there you go.
when someone calls for help and they say Shabbat, I
Shabbat.
know for a fact, not for a
Chabad.
fact, that they're not Jewish. And I'm quite pleased because our operation helps everybody and anybody
Yes.
affected by addiction. It's funded 99% by the Jewish donations. but from
Yes.
Jewish people.
Yeah.
And one of the motivations to give to us is that the Jewish people want very much to be able to be there for everybody without
Absolutely.
any agenda, just to heal,
Absolutely.
which I think is a
Yes.
beautiful thing to put out there,
Yes.
especially being in the shadow of the Jewish General Hospital.
Yeah, no, and I can attest to that because being in the organization, speaking there one day to one of your afternoon groups and taking a course, you absolutely see that. And I think what's important is for people to understand that it's open to everybody. And when I was there, you had me. What did you have me make? You had me make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
walk
yeah,
in and he's like, get to work. So that's
yeah.
important to know.
That was a while ago, and I want you to know that some people are still talking about those sandwiches you made.
Well, there you go. There's my claim to fame. Peanut butter and
Yeah,
jelly
yeah.
sandwiches.
Well, I would stay away from here when some of these people come back. That's all I would. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So let's go back to
Yes,
Chabad.
sorry,
Now that
sorry. We
it's
digress.
no Chabad
Habad.
is
Okay.
it's a philosophy that was founded uh, close to, I guess, about the end of the 1700s.
Okay.
What happened was going in Eastern Europe. In Eastern Europe at that time, the Eastern European Jews had been going through a tremendous amount of suffering. This is right after this, well, a few hundred years after the Spanish Inquisition,
Yes.
and then you had is these roaming Cossacks and other local populations decimating entire communities
Yes.
in the Jewish villages throughout Eastern Europe.
Yep.
So we're at a point in our history that was quite tough,
Mm-hmm.
and a few people came into the picture at that time. One of them would become the founder of the Chabad movement.
Mm-hmm.
His philosophy was that a person's worth is not based on what they do or what they know,
Mm-hmm.
based on the fact that they're a child of God.
Yes. Yes.
So being that, that's not just a nice thought. He developed an entire discipline taken
Mm-hmm.
from Jewish mysticism
Mm-hmm.
and Jewish law to
Mm-hmm.
be able to bring out a few key points. One is that God is recreating the world anew every subatomic second.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Two is the intrinsic value and worth of a person
Yes.
based
Yes.
solely on their soul, and three, that God has a agenda for this world, and there is a purpose, and the purpose God wants is to have a dwelling place here, basically for us to reveal the godliness inherent in the world. So that following along with those principles, the movement grew to spread out throughout Eastern Europe, basically inspiring, uniting, uh, not promoting, inspiring, uniting, empowering
Mm-hmm.
those Jewish communities to really get back up on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so powerful were these philosophies and the disciplines and the study that when it came to the Soviet Union and how they brutally tried to destroy any type of religion, especially
Yes.
Jewish religion,
Yes.
the Jews that survived and flourished in a
Mm-hmm.
way and went underground
Mm-hmm.
um, were disciples of
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
of Chabad.
Mm-hmm.
So it really became an internalized life style, life
Yes.
commitment.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
now um, part of its agenda is
Mm-hmm.
to bring out the goodness, the
Okay.
godliness everywhere. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? It basically has to do with the idea that God creates the world, something from nothing, but it's done in such a fashion where he remains, coming back to that thing, anonymous. He remains anonymous. What does that mean? It
Mm-hmm.
means that you can look around the world, and sometimes more than others, and really wonder, is there a creator here? Is there in fact a God? And you can have very intelligent people argue that there isn't.
Certainly, yeah.
Now that's proof of one thing.
Hmm.
That's proof that God can hide and
Yes,
does hide.
yes.
So, just to give you a little story that back this up a little bit, when my children were young and I would go away for a day or two business and come back, on the door they would say, "Welcome home, Daddy. We missed you, Daddy." Whatever it was. I knew my wife had them draw the things, but what happened in that moment?
Yeah.
We own a home, or we own a house, or the bank owns a house.
Yes.
My kids put on the door signs that transform that house into my home.
Yep.
And that's very much the idea. God puts us in this world and tells us different things that he wants accomplished, which will make him more comfortable
Hmm.
or revealed. And one of those is to alleviate any type of suffering, period.
Suffering, suffering.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that brings us to Chabad Lifeline.
Yes.
Um, and a major part of the Jewish religion is we are not missionaries. Uh,
Mm.
we do not missionize, and it is not. And one of the main reasons is that we believe that everybody is created in God's image,
Yep.
and the Jewish people have a role, and the non-Jewish people have a role. And so it's not about you have to be Jewish to serve in God's world or to be
Yes.
godly. So that's
Yeah.
a very important component. So
Yeah.
along comes this need to alleviate suffering. And that's where the social action offshoot of this organization comes from.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
you know, our teacher, our leader, he's since passed away about 26, 27 years ago, but it's really his guiding principles that have been leading us along the way. His argument was that in a dark world, a little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness.
And that's an excellent point, because that brings me to sort of, I didn't really have a lot of questions. I just wanted to see how this flowed. That's why I like to do it. But I did write a couple things down. So, but your background in telling us about your brother and then telling us about Chabad. Did I get it right?
Yeah,
Close?
that was very good. That was very good.
Right?
Yep.
Um, that kind of sets it up really in terms of your philosophy, in terms of addiction, and more of a holistic perspective. Because one of the things you focus on is not only the person who's suffering from addiction, but one of the things what I really like about the organization is your philosophy is that the whole family has to deal with it. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that, please.
Sure thing. So just understanding the idea of a little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness.
Yes.
Think about how a little bit of light times 1,000,
Hmm.
and how much darkness that can dispel.
Hmm.
If you think about it like that, then you'll understand why a big part of my job is bringing in enough money so we can continuously
Yes.
hire more staff.
Yep. Yep.
Because think about this: if somebody calls and they're in darkness, they're feeling the pain, whether it's of their own addiction, a family member's addiction, we could talk about that.
Yeah.
But I, having that charge about alleviating suffering, bringing a
Suffering.
little bit of light, I can't
Yes.
have that person wait. So throughout the day, we're getting calls. And every time I'm able to say to them, you called the right place, or my staff is saying, you called the right place, there's hope. You never have to be alone again.
Yes.
Boom, there's a little spark of light.
Oh,
Boom.
that's a big
And if you
light.
think about all the lights, so it's not light that you can necessarily see,
Yeah.
because we're talking about spiritual light.
Yes.
Darkness, we can see.
Yes.
Light is not so simple. But anyway, so
Yeah.
that's where we're coming. So now about the
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
So the philosophy in the it's an industry, right? Industry of addiction
Yes.
had very much to do with helping the addict.
Hmm.
So if inpatient rehabs, they might have a family week. Many of them do.
Yeah.
It's in order that the addict going back to the family What's the family's role in the person staying sober? We came with a different idea. My wife's leadership and her training had it that the partners of, the children of, the parents
Yeah.
of the person with the addiction, they themselves, irregardless of whether or not an addict comes for help.
Yes. Yes.
Is there a word irregardless? It's a good question.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is? Okay,
Be-
good, because I hope we're close enough, Perry, that you'll call me out on those words. I try
No,
to
no, yeah,
sound, you
it's,
know what I mean?
I didn't know
Okay.
that.
Okay, good, good, good. So irregardless of
Yeah, it's
whether or
there's.
not the addict
If
comes
not,
for
we can
help,
make one up today.
okay, I'm all for it.
But it's a word.
So you know what? And you know how many calls we get from 70-year-old mothers
Wow.
saying
Yes.
that their kid, who's 35, 40 years
Yes.
old,
Yes.
has been out of control for so long,
Yes.
and now it's come to a head. And can you help him?
Yes.
And then our staff is trained to say, absolutely, let him call here and we will help him. But
Yes.
let me ask you a question. Why isn't he calling?
Yeah.
Oh, because he can't. And where is he right now? He's sleeping. He came out last night. So let us understand something. He's sleeping.
Yes.
You're panicking.
Yes.
You're making the call.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. What's going on? Oh, no, no, no. Just help him. Just help him. Okay, we can let him call. But what about you? Your life has been hijacked
Mm-hmm.
by somebody else's disease.
Mm-hmm.
And in a certain sense, and don't take this literally, but in a certain sense, that, let's say, mother in this case became addicted to fixing the
Yes.
son.
Yep. Yep.
So that's a major focus of who we are.
They become the rescuer. They're trying to rescue.
Yeah.
Karen taught me that, so there you go.
Yeah. Karen's my wife, and she's absolutely. This is all based on her leadership.
Yeah.
Um, and and then whenever there is a family um, struggle, if the family's looked at as a system,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yes.
any system, like any machine, things operate together, right?
Yes.
So a family operates as a system. When you have one family member that is out of whack, is out of control, is creating chaos, the whole system gets changed, right? So a brother now might become, they call a mascot. A mascot meaning he'll be the jokester, so he can
Yes.
deflect the family from, or another brother, let's say, would become the silent one. He becomes a perfect student. No one ever has to ask. He's just the silent one because that's how he is helping the family by not being an issue,
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone takes on a role.
Mm-hmm.
So our idea here, the treatment that we have here is let's get the family together and let's do some adjusting. And it's really going to be about looking into a person's pain and seeing about that healing, because this particular mother at 70, most likely it's not just her son who has an addiction out of control. There's a good chance that one of her parents might have,
Yes. Yep.
right?
Yep.
So this is a systematic. There's a need to address the whole system, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where generations of
Mm-hmm.
dysfunction can
Mm-hmm.
really be arrested
Mm-hmm.
if it's dealt with in that way.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that because, in the mental health system, in Ontario, Quebec, I mean, that's still my points of references. It's very difficult to get help when you need it. So when you talk about when somebody calls and they say they need help, you know, you guys, I know your so-called waiting list is incredibly not waiting. There's a new word, not waiting, right? But in the system, people need help. Oh, there's a 3-month waiting list. Where does that person go? What do they do? So if you're in an emergency and you walk into the emergency room, you're going to get help. You're going to get the drugs. You're going to get, whatever you need. But for addiction and people with mental health disorders or issues, there's so much suffering going on. And when you use the word alleviating suffering, I mean, to me, that's the height of humanity. I mean, if you can serve a purpose where you're just alleviating suffering, I don't think there's anything better than that. So the fact that you're able to, from a fundraising perspective, right, where you raise all that money because you're going to need that money in order to meet the needs. I think that's important. I think in our health system, we just don't put enough money towards doing what you do. So it's incredibly helpful. And for me, I want people, friends. I mean, I've been speaking to friends in Montreal who have suffered from addiction, suffered from it, and I try to talk to them and try to refer them or whatnot. But people need to know there's a place like this that they can go to. And beyond that, there's a spirituality function there. And we've talked about this. We really won't go into it too much, but the whole concept of God and the whole concept of spirituality, there to serve people. And I think what you're about, from what I can testify to that, is you're about serving people with no agenda. And I think that was the message, what I'm trying to hopefully get out there, if I'm making sense.
Yeah, no, you're making a lot of sense. Listen, if it depends why we're here.
Yes.
Why am I here? Why are you here?
Yeah.
If it was a random act of biology, or
Yep.
it was a random, then it's noble what we're doing. If it's not an accident, if it's not by just mere biology and if there's actually is a higher power who does have a purpose for us,
Mm-hmm.
then it's incumbent on each one of us to check out, what am I
Yes.
doing today to
Yes.
be able to meet that requirement? It's no
Yes.
longer a privilege. It's not a privilege. It's a
Yep.
requirement.
Yeah.
So, and I'll tell you something very interesting. When I see people, I haven't done this in a while. I'm going to do it again.
Okay.
When I see people hurting in life at Lifeline, I might go over to them and say, "Hey, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm having a rough time." "Yeah, it sounds to me like God's getting ready to use you."
Mm. Mm.
You know what? Sometimes, many times, they'll tear up. "I
Mm.
hope so." Why do they hope so, Perry? Think about this for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Someone gets hit by a bus.
Mm-hmm.
They're lying there bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say that this person's emotional pain is any less intense.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know, than a person lying and hit by a bus. Let's just
Mm-hmm.
say I go to a person lying on the street and say, "God's getting ready to use you."
Mm.
They don't want to know that. They just want to get rid of the pain. They want the
Exactly.
pain taken care of.
That's right.
But why is it so meaningful to people? What do they care if they're being used or not? And I think that's the problem. The problem is not addiction. Addiction
Yes.
is a solution.
Yes.
The
Yes.
the the problem is the pain, the isolation,
Yes.
the yearning to get high.
Yes.
Not when we talk about yearning to get high, I don't know that many addicts who are doing it for the fun anymore.
No, absolutely not. It's to alleviate the pain. It's a temporary relief
Yep.
of pain and suffering. That's what it
Which
is.
came from, I believe, in
Yes.
large part from a existential longing
Yeah.
to matter.
Yes. Often from childhood too. Brought up through
Oh,
childhood.
especially,
Yes.
we can see that all the time. We
Yes.
can see how if a child from very young
Mm.
is either, and it's, you know what, I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent.
Yep.
It's one of the hardest thing in the world is to raise is to raise a family, is to raise
Yeah.
kids. And
Yeah.
there's no question. It's the hardest
Yeah.
thing because you know what? My parents also struggled, and so did their parents.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to share something with you that's come up to me
Yeah.
lately that I think is important to share.
Okay. Yeah.
When a child's born, they're
Hmm.
not a fresh start. There's no fresh start.
Yep. Yeah.
Now we know just genetically
Hmm.
how a child is coming from a community.
Yes.
The community history has impacted that child's genes.
100%.
Okay, so for the last 2,000 years, from the last 2,000 years that the Jewish people have been chased and butchered and
Yep.
around the world,
Yes.
2,000 years, you can look
Yep.
at the history.
2,000 years, maybe even more than that.
Well, no, it's 2,000 years. It
2,000. Yeah.
started again.
I'll
It
take your
started
word for it
again.
over mine.
Yeah, right. It was the Romans conquered. The Romans conquered Jerusalem
Yes.
in the year 70 AD. So
Yeah.
from that point on, but you're right. But now let's talk about that. Okay,
Yeah.
in 1950,
Mhm.
1850, there was a government policy in Russia. The Tsar wanted every Jewish boy 12 years old
Mhm.
to go to the army for 25 years.
Mhm.
And they would come around to towns and they would hop, they would kidnap, they would grab the 12-year-old, and the
Mhm.
family would never see him again.
Mhm.
And not only there was a quota. So if they came to a town and you didn't tell them where the 12-year-olds were,
Yeah.
you would have to give your 12-year-old.
Mhm.
Now think about this for a second. I never thought about it, but think about this. This went on for 30 years.
Yeah.
How would a mother feel anytime there was a knock on the door or anytime the kid went out at all?
Mhm.
But the amount of anxiety,
Mhm.
where does that go?
Yes. Where does that go? Very good
Where
question.
does
Yeah.
that go?
Yeah.
And
Trauma.
yeah, and that's passed on.
Yes, it is.
That's passed on. And then that's an amazing statement
Yes.
that we can get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
Just get
No,
out of
no,
bed.
it's true. And I forgot the author, but she was talking about from slavery to colonization, and just what Black people have experienced. She calls it this. I may be butchering it, but I believe she calls it the suffering DNA, and that DNA, she says, passes down. Right. I have a book in my bookshelf. I just can't remember what where it is, but that's DNA passes down, and that's trauma. Right.
Right,
So yes,
right.
so it comes from somewhere. Right.
It does, but I'm glad you brought that up because it doesn't define us.
That's right. That's right.
If it
That's
if
right.
it if it defined us, at least with the Jewish history, you wouldn't have an organization called Chabad Lifeline raising 1.3 million a year,
Yeah.
helping everybody, Jewish and
Yes.
non-Jewish, for free.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
wouldn't have the
Absolutely.
Jewish General Hospital. You know, the Jewish
Absolutely.
General Hospital started. Did I ever tell you that?
Yeah, I know the story. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I know the story.
So, so that's got to be the reaction. So we might be getting, we are getting the DNA and the
Yes.
trauma. We are,
Yeah.
and somehow also, maybe even more spiritual than DNA because DNA
Yeah.
is still a physical thing.
Yeah.
There is a charge that's been keeping, not victimhood. On the contrary,
Yes.
leadership.
Yes.
So that's an
Victimhood.
interesting study. The difference between, and I have that in my all the time. Am I going to
Yes.
be like a victim,
Yeah.
or am I going to be a leader?
Yeah.
That's a
No.
decision I make throughout the day.
You make that every day. And one of the things I talk about in my community, and I often use the Jewish community, I always say, and I tell that, to my kids and everybody, don't be a victim.
Yeah,
Okay. I actually never be a victim, be a leader. Right.
yeah,
And I think because if you're right, if you let victimhood define you, right, your life too is going to be pretty miserable. And victimhood doesn't do anything for you. And I think that also translate into when you're dealing with addiction and we're dealing with addicts, right? I think that's huge because I think they internalize their suffering, and I think they may believe their addiction is because of a whole bunch of things and make excuses, don't take responsibility. And I know that's sort of how you do things too. Don't be a victim because it's not helpful to you.
Good, except
Hmm.
for myself,
Yes.
I can't be a victim. I have to
Yes.
be a leader. And that's a
Yes.
challenge all the time.
Yes.
When someone comes in,
Yes.
a person's bleeding, they got hit by a bus,
Yes.
they're in a lot of pain.
Pain. Okay.
They are a victim. They're a victim
Yes.
of their pain. What's the
Okay.
solution?
Yeah.
I have a friend. You ever meet a actual lumberjack?
No. No.
So I have a guy. He is an interesting guy. He's probably like 75 years old,
Yep.
maybe a little older,
Yeah.
and he's got close to 50 years sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous.
Oh wow. Okay.
And he's got big hands. This guy,
Yeah.
like you think a lumberjack would have,
Yeah.
big hands.
Yeah.
He told an amazing story. He said that
Yeah.
he owed somebody a lot of money or something. He wasn't paying it, and so this guy came to his front yard with a dump truck or something and
Oh
dumped a
wow.
whole bunch of crap on his front yard. So my friend the lumberjack said, in the old days, I would have taken a chainsaw to his log cabin. But he said no. He says, now listen, I sure as hell am not responsible for it being there.
Yep.
But I but
Yep.
I have to clean it up.
Eating up. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So each one of us, we'd be given a package.
Yeah.
Each one of us, it's going to be pain. That's going to be
Yeah.
the one. So
Yeah.
now that's true. So when I
Yeah.
look at somebody now coming in, I
Mhm.
don't look at them and I don't say, or our staff doesn't say, don't be a victim, be a leader.
Yes. Yeah.
We
I hear
say,
you.
how can we help you to see you are a leader?
Yeah. Yes.
Because you
Yeah.
can't see that right now.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. They come
Yeah.
in there and they definitely can't see that. So mindful
You know
of
what? One
time.
more thing about this. One
Yeah.
more
Go
thing.
ahead. Go ahead.
Something that came up recently.
Sure.
I think it's Gabor Mate that said this. Um, when you say to a kid, the kid that pisses you off, your
Mhm.
kid that pisses you off, I've heard it said to me a few times by my father, "What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
Now, I don't think he was asking me. He was asking my
Help.
opinion.
Yeah.
No, he was making a statement, right?
Yes.
Imagine if we can say to our children, "What's happened to you?"
Yes. What's happened to you? Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine we can say to
Yeah.
ourselves, when we do something wrong, when we do something stupid, when we do make a mistake, instead of condemning ourselves and saying, "What's the matter with you? Again, you did that?"
Mm-hmm.
You say, "Wow, that's interesting. There's a
Yeah.
pattern there. I wonder what's
Yeah.
going on."
Yeah.
And it's that curiosity, I believe,
Mhm.
is humility and spirituality.
Yes.
Starts
Yes.
starts with curiosity.
Yeah. I'm just taking notes because these are all excellent points. So one of the things when we saw you last, you were moving towards your campaign to focus on youth. And the
Yep.
other day when you sent me your newsletter, I opened it up and I read it, and you were doing something at Vanier College. I was like, hey, I went to Vanier College. That was my stage up. And I was reading what you were doing. So briefly, because I know I want to respect your time. Can you just let everybody know in terms of your youth outreach and what are you doing, for example, with Vanier or whatnot, so we can sort of get a feel for your push towards younger people.
The message is that using whatever you're using, whether it's substance, whether it's alcohol, whether it's pornography, whether it's whatever it is you're using,
Yes.
that's not the problem. That's the solution.
Okay. That's okay.
Now
Yeah.
let's talk about what the problem might be.
Yes.
Let's open ourselves up. Let's not judge each other. Let's
Mhm.
genuinely wonder,
Hmm.
wow, you know what? What's going on? What's going on that such
Hmm.
a debilitating behavior?
Hmm.
And why are you doing that? Not
Hmm.
not why are you doing that, but
Hmm.
why?
Yeah.
So that's the primary message because we feel like with that type of non-judgmental
Hmm.
um, message, there could be more and more healing. So we're
Yes.
letting people know when we go to Vanier that they don't ever have to be alone.
Yeah.
That if you had to think about the number one prevention when it comes to addiction, what's the number
Yeah.
one? I would say, let's say, it's a good question.
Hmm.
I have the answer before I ask the question, but I don't even
Hmm.
know if I have the full answer. But one of the things would be don't have a secret.
Don't have a what? Say it again.
Don't have a secret.
Yes. Don't have a secret. Yeah.
We are only as sick as our secrets.
Yep.
So it doesn't mean everybody knows everything about us. No, of course not. But at least have one person in our lives, hopefully, you know, mature, healthy influence,
Mhm.
but have one person where I tell them there's nothing I'm hiding from him or her.
Yeah.
Because
Sorry, go ahead.
no, that's what I was going to say.
No, I just, like I said, I always take notes. When you talk about don't have a secret, it reminds me of my mother, God bless her, because I always tell people she was the smartest person I knew. And she always told me, never have a secret, because she used to explain it in her own Caribbean way. But I'm not going to try to do it because I'll just mess it up. But she says when you bury things, they become toxic. Okay. And they slowly move to the surface and it destroys you. You have to cleanse yourself of secrets, because secrets is something that destroys you. And you do have to confide in somebody or talk to somebody, let it out. Because what you may believe is that, oh, you have a secret and you let it out, people are going to shun you or whatnot. No, it's worse to keep it in, because the toxicity of the secret will destroy you from within. And when you mentioned, I immediately thought about her. She says it with much more passion and and,
I'll tell you
and
that
wisdom,
that's
but that's what she said.
very, very wise, very
Yeah,
wise. I
that's what
would
she said.
add, I would add to that, and I think she was saying it.
Mhm.
Um, it's the secret. What's the toxicity? The toxicity is the shame that
Okay,
keeps it a secret.
that keeps us secret. Okay, yes,
Why
yes.
am I keeping it? And I've spoken to so many people with addiction that when they did say things for the first time out loud, they said they were sure they were going to the grave with this one.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
Why?
yeah,
Why? And so
yeah.
that's what we call so essential in any healing is shame busting.
Shame busting. Yes, so true.
Shame is the fuel. I think shame is the fuel behind all dysfunction.
Mm.
One of the things that fuels, especially addiction, is shame. Shame is this knowing that I'm the problem. I'm I'm not I'm useless. That's shame. And here I know something that's going to back it up, so I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, yeah. No, it makes sense. So if we can wrap it up, if you can tell me, um, you know, whatever you want to tell me about Chabad, in terms of, if you're suffering, if you're in crisis, um, why should they call you? And just briefly about the intake experience, um, when they do call.
Yeah. So why us? I want to make sure that whoever you do call
Mm.
has the qualified staff that we have. I want to make
Yes.
sure that whoever you do call has this helping right away
Hmm.
response. I
Hmm.
want to make sure that whoever you do call is affordable,
Hmm. Yep.
free need be. I want to
Yeah.
make I want to make sure that it's within, it's accessible, meaning it's by a metro, it's right here,
Yep.
it's
It
in the
is right
city.
there. St. Catherine.
So I want to make sure that if you're calling because of, let's say, marijuana addiction, which by the way, that's the number one thing that people are coming for help with.
Really?
that I see. Yeah, it's interesting. Younger and younger people.
Yes.
That's for a different conversation. But
Yeah.
I want to make sure that anywhere you're going to go for help is going to look at the whole person. And they're going
Mm,
to ask you not only about marijuana, they're going to ask you about relationships.
mhm.
They're going to ask you about your eating. They're gonna bring up all kinds of stuff because it could mean Jello. Jello, you push down on the alcohol and up comes the pornography. You push down on pornography, up comes the eating. So I want to make sure that anywhere you're going is not going to be too narrow-minded about just dealing with alcohol or just dealing with drugs, but understands process
Yeah.
addictions.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can find somebody like that, don't bother me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, listen, it's a beautiful thing. So going to wrap it up. I think, I mean, we can go on forever, but I just want to say, again, applied intelligence with Perry Douglas is about, talking to interesting people who are applying their intelligence to really take on some of the great human challenges of their lifetime in their existence. So I thank you very much. And, people can just Google it up. Chabad Lifeline. Chabad. Am I
Not bad. Not
how
bad.
bad? I'm gonna
Not
work on
bad.
it. I'm gonna call
Yeah.
my boys. I'm gonna call a couple of my boys, and they're gonna help me with it. But listen, I thank you very much. I know you got a very busy day and in trying times, so I'm gonna say thank you very much, and we'll catch up, and hopefully next month, if I can make it down to Montreal, I can do another lunch talk or whatnot. I would definitely love to definitely appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
All
All the
all the
best. We'll talk to you
you
later.
too.
You take
Okay.
care.
Bye bye now.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye.